Any tips about how to optimize factories to not burn CPU? I mean, it is, for example, good to use one belt speed for one factory chain or multiple belt speeds. Don't use signs. It should be fine.
So I don't
It's
know
like-
if there's any specific like tips we can give for CPU bound stuff specifically, because don't play the game, I guess, is the tip.
Kinda.
The less belts, the better, I would say.
That's my just ballpark guess almost is that if you want your factory to be at a certain size, and you reach that size and you start having FPS issues, like changing the very minute things about it, but still keeping it overall the same like amount of busy is not going to do very much to save your FPS.
Yeah, and it's like there are so many moving parts here, and there's so many it's hard to give general tips because, you know, if you have a factory where you need a lot of draw data sent, and that's all CPU bound as well, so that's bad. But also, yeah, I don't think there's any good tips we can give really. Buy a more expensive CPU. Get the new 98X or 98. Yeah, I think the new, because I think people always say like it's better to have like a lot of people would argue that you would need a lot of threading for our game. I think that's only true if you play like 4K, because I still think that most stuff in Satisfactory is still very like single core will still get you more bang for your buck, even though stuff is multi-threaded in our game.
Interesting.
Because like I think people have told me that because we play the game on very multi-thread, like we threaded on Xeon CPUs, and I think the 98X performs better than Xeon does, and Xeon is very multi-threaded. It's like 128 cores or something like that in the Xeon processors, and the game still runs better CPU bound wise. But the GPU will still get you further. Like a better GPU is more important than a good CPU. But we have noticed one thing. I want to share this. Actually, a fun little tidbit. When we get crash reports, we actually can see people's hardware, and they're all anonymous, right? One thing we have noticed is there tends to be a tendency for gamers to buy like really good GPUs and have really bad CPUs. And then they run into issues because their CPU is really old, but they have a really good GPU. Yeah, just get a Threadripper. I honestly don't think a Threadripper is good for our game. Threadripper is more for like like stuff that can be easily more parallelized. Satisfactory is still very much a lot of single core stuff. So yeah, gotta get that 98. Yeah, exactly. 9800X.
Yeah.
I think that's still better because I know that the 9800X is pretty bad when it comes to like productivity stuff and like the multi-threaded stuff. But I think in our game it's still better than having like compared to like the other ones like the 7950 and the 9950. I think it's still better to have like a fast and you also have like the 3D caching on that one as well, which also plays an aspect to it. But it's kind of hard because it kind of depends on your factory as well. So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,